Hello, hello, and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John. Let me start that again. Hello, hello. Okay, wait. All right, here we go. Hello, hello, and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And we're just going to get right into it today. And this is a session, this is an episode that you really want to share with others, and this is not about wanting to become any kind of a big social networking star. This is just stuff that is amazing. It's just amazing and will help you live a better life. My guest today is Kim Sorrell, and she is the author of the book called Love Is. And it's an amazing book. Kim is the only person who I'm going to be inviting back every month for the next 13 months because her book was so impactful for me and continues to be so impactful for me because she talks about 14 different characteristics of love. And folks, you've heard me say this time and time again. It's all about love. It's all about love. And it's amazing. Kim, welcome back to Finding Better. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my gosh, John, I'm thrilled to be here and so thrilled to be doing this series with you. This is going to be so fun.
It's just amazing. The last episode that we did was on Love is Patient. And, that was your first chapter. Today, we're going to talk about love is kind. And, I'll tell you that since the last time we talked and the last time we spoke and we went through love is patient, I've been challenged. I've been challenged. There have been times over the last month or so where I found myself in very, very impatient situations. And I'd say to myself, love is patient, patience is love. And it works. It's crazy. It works when you use those words and it just kind of it takes your blood pressure and just kind of go. And so thank you for that. And so today we're going to talk about love is kind. And I love how your experience in Haiti, where you spent a long time, but you spent 1 month trying to find love in each of these different 14 characteristics. And folks, these 14 characteristics are in the book of Corinthians. And so, this is not a religious podcast, but where we can glean things out of the Bible or anywhere. That's what we're going to do. So, Kim, love is kind. When people hear that, they go, "Well, yeah, I'm kind. I'm kind. I'm a kind person." Okay, so tell us your story and what you learned and what that means to you, please.
Well, I felt the same way, John. And going back to Love is Patient, it took me a lot of practice, a lot of practice to
Yeah,
really, really, it took me a long time to figure it out. And then it took me a lot of practice to really get there, to be able to live love that is patient. It took me a long time. And so, of course, when I was on month two, working on Love is Kind, I was still working on Love is Patient at the same time. So it
oh,
was,
the hard part about this is that they layer on top of each other, right? So
yeah.
I'm trying to practice love is kind, and then the love is patient challenge comes in, and I'm like, wait, okay, wait, I'm working on kind, but now it's just amazing. It's wonderful. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
True. But I thought kind was going to be so easy. And like I said,
Yeah,
I dedicated, a whole month to it. And I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to find this out the very first of the month. And then what am I going to do? Move to the next? Because everybody knows what kind is. You're
right,
taught
right,
kind when you're a child. You're taught what is kind, what's not kind, and it's not kind to hit your brother. It is kind to bake a cake for somebody,
right.
whatever we learn. But the things that I found out about love is kind. You put love in front of any word or phrase and it changes the meaning. So kindness is one thing. Love that is kind is entirely different.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So at the end of that month, as I'm thinking, I'm never going to figure out anything different than I already know about kind. I went to one of my favorite places in Haiti. It's a home for sick children, is what it's called. And it is run by Mother Teresa's order, the Sisters of Charity. And it is this oasis in the middle of a city, in the middle of Port-au-Prince, that all around it is ravages from the earthquake from several years ago. And it's just dirty and dusty and whatever. And then you walk in and it's just this beautiful place for kids, and
So
babies.
just for a little bit more perspective on this, the place was devastated. I mean, Haiti was it was demolished. It was as if a wrecking ball came because it was that great big huge earthquake that killed what, a couple 100,000 people. I mean,
Mhm.
it was demolished. And first of all, here you are in Haiti. When not to laugh, but that's crazy. That's crazy. And God bless you for taking making that effort. But so I just wanted to share that kind of perspective of what was going on around you and how terrible it was. And then you went to this oasis, if you will,
Yes.
in the middle
Yeah.
of all that.
Yeah. Yeah. With the Sisters of Charity, just lovely ladies. And I love to go there and I love to go down. They've got two levels. I like to go in the lower level where the babies are. And you just
Oh,
look and there's just this sea of institutional cribs. So there's just babies everywhere. And I like
oh,
to hone in on one baby and then just spend the day with the baby and help with feeding and changing diaper and just hold them and love them. Because so many of these kids come from far away and their parents are poor and a lot of times aren't even able to be there with them. And so they only have the sisters. And so the sisters need as much help as they can to hold the babies, to be able to spend time with the babies. So that's what I like to do is just go and love on a baby.
yeah, yeah.
So I went and this one baby caught my eye and I looked over and it was this tiny infant, newborn, which you didn't see many newborns there. They were usually at least a little bit older. But a newborn baby in a pink terry cloth sleeper, probably donated by somebody in the United States and then now is in Haiti. And and he just this beautiful, gorgeous, perfect little features, perfect little baby. I walked over and I saw that there was oxygen going in through two tiny little tubes in his nose, and then he had an IV, and I wondered what was going on. And first, I thought a girl being in a
Uh-huh.
pink sleeper, but found out that his name was Christopher. And then I looked over and saw that there was a woman standing at the end of the crib. And so then I found out Christopher's story. So Christopher was his grandma, Natalie, that was standing at the end of the crib. And Natalie's only child, Christopher's mom, died after giving birth to Christopher on the dirt floor of their one-room house.
Uh,
And so here's Natalie with this newborn, and Christopher wasn't taking milk well. And Natalie thought, well, it's not his mom's, he'll get used to it, but it got worse and worse. And so she
oh,
walked for I don't even know how many miles all the way to the Sisters of Charity to get help for Christopher. And they don't have a lot of medical equipment there, but what they figured out as best they could is that he must have an obstruction that's stopping stopping milk from going any further, and
uh-huh.
that's why he wasn't able to keep it down. And so in the U.S., John, where my kids were born, that'd probably be a pretty simple surgery
Yeah, yeah,
and everything would be
yeah.
taken care of and all would go well and whatever. But
Right.
in Haiti, there's few hospitals, few doctors. There's not much for medical care. And
Especially at that time. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
in normal times, there's not that much, but right after that earthquake, I can't imagine there was any availability of anything.
right. Yeah, not much for sure. And certainly not much when you're poor, poor, poor and you don't have a
Right.
dime to spend on anything. And so we figured out a way to be able to get Christopher surgery. I called a doctor that I knew, working just a couple miles away. But Port-au-Prince is a kind of a nightmare. It's 2 million people, infrastructure for 40,000 people. So getting anywhere
Ugh.
in Port-au-Prince takes an hour. I always figure an hour. Go a couple miles, it's going to take you an hour. So anyway, we got things arranged. And meanwhile, though, Natalie and I just bonded. And even though we spoke two different languages, it's just what happens, right? When you're
Yeah,
both
yeah,
moms, you're both
yeah.
grandmas, and you're both loving this baby. And she let me into her world, and we just hung on to each other and hung on to Christopher's little hands and just prayed together and hugged each other and loved on each other and hoped for the best and whatever, and got this arranged. Well, we're standing there, and at one point in time, a couple hours in, Christopher stopped breathing. And so we stopped breathing. And then in a big hustle, we realized that his oxygen tank, his oxygen tube had been bent. There was a kink in it.
Oh
And as soon
no.
as we unkinked it, he started breathing again.
Oh.
Yeah, oh my gosh. We thought we were losing him right then. And that was so scary. And so, anyway, we realized, of course, he had to have oxygen to live. And he had to have the surgery was his only chance of living. So we needed a portable oxygen tank. So I called everybody I knew. I know a lot of people in Port-au-Prince. I called everybody I knew. And some people went to go look for one. Some people had no idea where to look for one, but nobody could find a portable oxygen tank in this city with 2 million people, not one portable oxygen tank. So poor Natalie had to decide, does she stay here with Christopher on oxygen? Does she try the surgery? What does she do? And she knew her only hope really was the surgery. So they got everything ready. They got things ready for Christopher. The hospital was on alert, waiting for him to come. They pulled
Okay.
a van up to the side door. They kept the van running so that they could go as quick as they possibly could.
Right.
So then all of a sudden, these two nuns came, and one took his IV bag, the other one picked him up out of the crib, his oxygen going out of his nose, and ran to the door and ran to go get in the van. Now, I just watched him go, and I turned around and Natalie was still there. And I'm like, go, go. And then she pointed down at her feet, and she had no shoes. And she knew you can't get in a hospital without shoes on. So I quick whipped off my sandals. I put them in one of her hands. I grabbed her by the arm, ran for the door. And just as the van was pulling away, she hopped in the van and was with
Oh
Chris.
my gosh.
And, John, I just thought anybody would do that, right? I mean, I would go barefoot forever if that's what I needed to do so that,
Yeah.
Natalie could be with Christopher. And so giving up my sandals, no big deal. I mean, you should see my closet. I've got shoes. A lot of Haitians have the one pair, or in Natalie's case, none. So she walked for miles with no shoes with this baby to get him help, and just to find out that help was difficult. And so I gave her my shoes, and that's kind, right? To give up my shoes, I realized that's kind.
Sure.
And then I realized what love is kind is. So I gave her my shoes knowing I'd never get them back again, knowing she'd never pay me for the shoes. She'd never be able to give me a different pair of shoes. She'd never be able to pay me back in any way. I just showed love that is kind, period, with zero expectation of getting anything in return. And that's what love that is kind is having no expectation of getting anything in return, not a thank you, not a thank you note. How often do you give things? How often have I given things in my life where I'm like, well, I brought them food when they were sick, where's my casserole, or whatever. I went to their daughter's wedding. Why didn't they come to mine or whatever? Well, it might be kind to bring food to a friend that's sick, but the minute you expect food back again,
Yeah.
that's not love that is
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zero expectations, which is a whole different concept, right? But what I also realized that day is giving my shoes, that was kind. That was love that is kind. There's no doubt, I knew I'd likely never see Natalie again. But the kindness she showed me that day was so far beyond a pair of shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Letting me in and letting me love on Christopher and connect with that baby and spend that day with her, that precious time with her was love that is kind beyond compare.
That is amazing. One of the other stories in that chapter had to do with that young man
Oh,
who,
yes.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
That story will never leave my mind. It's just left an indelible mark. Um, would you share that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so where I stayed most of the time when I was in Port-au-Prince was this place called Notre Maison, which means our house, our home. It's a home for children with disabilities that normally are just kind of left to die on the
Yeah.
streets,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But this wonderful lady, Gertrude, set up this beautiful, wonderful place for them. And she had a couple extra rooms that people could rent. And so I would stay there and stay, with the kids and whatever. And I had a group come down and they wanted to take the kids to the zoo. And zoo is kind of a big term for what it actually is. It's this little place, but the only one of its kind in Haiti, but it's a small place at Baptist Haiti Mission, and it's got like an iguana and a couple birds, this crazy, crazy monkey. There's just a few animals there, but these kids have never seen anything like it, right? They never leave the
Right.
wall of
Right.
Notre Masan. So this group wanted to take a group of the kids. And so we decided we would do that. So we all get on a bus. The kids were thrilled to death. They were so excited. And we stopped at this restaurant, Epidoor, that's it's their answer to fast food. There's no McDonald's in Haiti. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. There's no fast food. There's no anything. I mean, it's Haiti. But so Epidoor though is a nice place that you can get any kind of fried food you want, and plus they've got pastries and whatever. So everybody had one child. So everybody's paired up, and so I figure we're safe. And I had some translators with me and security,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so everybody's eating, and I'm just kind of keeping an eye on everybody. And all of a sudden, people started going nuts, and like people were jumping up off their seats, and they're all kind of staring. And I'm like, what's going on? And I look over and I saw that Junior, who at the time probably was 17 years old, and he was the gatekeeper. Junior always had a smile on his face,
Hmm.
happiest guy, just the happiest guy. He'd be at the gate waiting for you and open, can't wait to see you. He's just happy all the time, giving you a big thumbs up. And here's Junior, and he's got his pants down and he's backing up into a potted fake plant, and he has the worst diarrhea, and it's going all over the floor and all
Oh
over his
no.
pants, and people are eating. And I went, oh my gosh. And I have 5 kids and I'm horrible with that kind of stuff. I'm terrible with it. Like it just makes me sick. I'm sure a lot of people, but I'm like, oh my word, now what do I do? And I'm thinking, we don't have more pants for Junior. We don't have a great way to clean him up. Fortunately, Cloudy, one of the guys that was with us, this kind man who was there to translate and for security, he quickly took Junior to the bathroom, kind of pulled his
Uh-huh.
pants up, cleaned him up as best as he could. And
And he's a mess.
he's
He's a
a
mess.
mess. And it is
Ugh.
everywhere. It's just all over him, all over the floor. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these poor kids. I mean, we're gonna have to go back, and they're not going to be able to go to the zoo. But this has already been a big treat for them. But the people that I was with, the group, they really wanted to take the kids to the zoo. But I'm thinking, there's no way we can have Smelly Junior, and I'll be sick if we'll all be sick if we have Junior, poor Junior, in the bus with us. And so Cloudy said that he would take Junior back. And I was like, oh my gosh, you would do that for us? Like, that's huge, because it's not pleasant for him either, and
Yeah.
he's already
Yeah.
cleaned him up and whatever. And so we went outside, and we're trying to get a moto. They've got motorcycles that are just small, more dirt bike kind of motorcycles, and they'll put 6, 7 people on one, and it's a ride like a taxi. And
Unbelievable.
yeah, so uh we wave one down, he pulls up, smells Junior, drives away as quick as he can. And
Oh.
that happened a couple of times. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just offer more money, let's see if somebody will do it. And sure enough, somebody did for some more money. And so Junior got on the back and smiling from ear to ear.
Oh.
Claudie got in right behind him. Claudie's on the back behind him and taking it for the team. I mean, just
Oh.
so kind of him. And Junior's just the happiest. he'd ever been. He was just so happy to be on this motorcycle. And so they went and we
That's
went
a
to
perspective for you, right? Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right, right. And so we did end up taking the rest of the kids to the zoo, but man, that was some kind love, I'll
yeah.
tell you, that Claudia showed. And I found out later that it was Junior's wish, like his biggest dream was to ride on a motorcycle. And
Oh,
so for him, it ended up being the greatest day of his life, diarrhea and all. But man, Claudia just went above and beyond. I'll never forget his what he did for everybody that day and what he did for Junior.
that is kindness. That
Mhm.
is, yeah.
That is love that is kind.
Kindness is love. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That is amazing because you think about, first of all, your whole experience in Haiti was, I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine being there, let alone experiencing all the things that you experienced. And I can't help but relate it back to the life that we live and how much abundance we have. And you know, I we live in a place, we live at a time that we have more objectively abundance around us, and yet we are more subjectively unhappy. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I know a lot of people who have a lot of money and a lot of wealth who are unhappy because they don't have enough. And and it takes, you got to sit back and that's part of what travel does, right? I mean, I love to travel because I always find myself appreciating what we have when I come home. But for me, um, that story resonates because we've all experienced it. We've all experienced the ew moment, right? Of coming across a homeless person or coming across somebody who's on the side of the road, right at the end of the freeway off ramp, you know, um, hoping that will folks will give them something, and I think I feel badly, but I don't think my emotions around that are uncommon because I'll see a young man and he's at the end of the freeway off ramp and he'll look perfectly healthy and I'll think to myself, get a job, right? Or I'll see a woman and I've read the stories about panhandling people and then somebody following them to their car and they're driving a Mercedes Benz, right? And you just
Right.
go, I'm not going to give we're so judgmental also. And if we can just, and I know you're going to talk about that in a later, later episode, right? But but if we can let all that go and just look at it from the standpoint of love is kind,
Mhm.
you know, it really does change you. It really does change you. I mean, who am I to judge, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
she may have been given that Mercedes Benz by a dying uncle, and she that may be her home. We don't know. I mean, I don't know.
right.
And one thing I know about homeless people is they don't have addresses. So, I used to think to myself, well, get a job. Okay, well, most people who get a job need to have a social security number, which is the number one thing, and they need to have an address. Well, these people don't have an address. They don't even have a place to take a shower. And so, you start thinking about these things. I know I'm rambling, but this has just been it's been kind of a revelation for me, this whole process of what you've exposed to me in your book.
Yeah. Well, I understand those feelings for sure. That, gosh, why aren't they, I'm working hard. I work hard for my money. Why am I going to give my money away? And what are they going to do with it? And I've
Yeah,
come to the realization, John, that it doesn't matter what they do with it. The the thing that matters is your heart in giving it. If you give anything with the right heart, with no expectation of anything in return, but just because you love and because we're supposed to love everybody, we should just love everybody. It's the freest, most wonderful way to live, to not be judgmental, but just love. And then if you're giving it with the right heart, who cares if they go buy drugs, if they go buy booze, that's on them, right? You're not going to follow them around and go whatever. And the reality is, if somebody's an alcoholic and they go just cold turkey, they could die.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
that's right.
they could die. So if they buy a little alcohol, they buy a little alcohol. But why worry about that?
And
You
and
know,
and not only that, with what you just said, not only why worry about that, you may be saving their life,
right, right. You
right? I
make
mean, I remember my wife and I, we were walking down through downtown Seattle and through this area called the International District. And there's this guy who just, he didn't ask, he didn't, he just looked at me. He just looked at me and he looked at my wife. And my wife and I just looked at each other like, we were saying the same thing to each other without words, right? We need to do something with this to help this guy. And so I pulled out my wallet and I gave him $20 and he just ran. He took my money and he just ran. And I knew that he was going to get drugs with that money. And what you just part of me said, oh my gosh, I just get why didn't he buy food? Why didn't he, he's going off to buy more drugs. But to your point, might have saved his life.
Mhm.
And who knows? And to your point of who cares what he does with it? It's this is about you. This is about we as individuals and our own hearts. And I love that. It's just amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah, well, and I think too, I don't know that people want to live on the street. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of people with mental illness, a lot of people with addictions, a
Yes,
lot of
that's
people
right.
that on hard times, for whatever reason. And another thing that we tend to do is say, well, we're not going to give them money because, gosh, if we give them money, they're going to, who knows what they're going to do with it. So we'll buy them a meal. Well, I know like in my city, the homeless people in my city are pretty well taken care of as far as meals go. They
Mhm.
can get meals, they can get hot meals every day. But if somebody gave me money and told me what I had to do with it, I
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
is that
that's
really what you want? Hey, I'll buy
yeah,
you a burger. Well, maybe I don't want a
yeah,
burger.
yeah,
I discovered that in Haiti, it's so easy as Americans to go in and go, well, you know what you really need? We know how to fix this problem. We know how to fix this. Well, we don't know the culture,
yeah. No,
or
we don't.
even
We know
understand the
nothing.
language, and they know what they need.
Yeah, yeah,
People know what they need, and so I don't know. Shoes on the other foot, right? I don't know that I'd
yeah,
want people to tell me what I had to buy with
yeah.
the money that they're willing to give me.
On this topic of homelessness, uh, there about I don't know, maybe it was about 3 months ago. My wife and I were having dinner, and we saw these two ladies, homeless ladies, and my wife and I talked about it, and they had their cart. And they were just walking along and they were looking for food. And we never, it's really uncommon for us, seeing two women, homeless women, is not something I see very often. And so I turned to my wife and I said, I want to help them. Right. And so to make a long story short, we asked them if they'd like something to eat, and they said, sure, we'd love something to eat. And we said, how else can we help you? And they said, we this might be a big ask, but we'd love to take a shower. And so my wife and we ended up throwing all their stuff in my truck, taking them to a hotel, and buying them a night in a hotel room. And this is not the Ritz Carlton, right? It was like a Days Inn or something like that, where they could just be comfortable, be safe for one night, and take a shower. And they told me, they said, we were talking about their experience and what happened. And they were from Michigan and they found their way all the way down to California, and they were running away from a bad relationship. And they just left and found themselves homeless in San Diego County. And I said, what is the thing? What have you learned from this? And they said, you know what? They said, we just ask that folks not be so mean to us. They don't know who we are They don't know our experience. They don't know what we've been through. They just make this judgment that we're losers. And we're two women who are on our own, and all we ask is that people that they didn't even ask for people to be kind. They just said, just don't be mean to us. And it just broke my heart. And but we were able to do something for them that one night. And we told them where things were and stuff like that. And of course we never saw them again. But that just um, you don't know.
Mm.
You don't know.
You
Everybody's
don't
got a
know.
story, and you don't know.
So true. So true. And what a beautiful thing to do because like sometimes giving food is the right thing, right? But you ask,
Yeah, you
and
ask, you
find out rather
ask,
than just,
you
you know,
ask.
be
Yeah,
in demand and say this is what you have to do. But
yeah.
you ask. And a hotel room, what a wonderful thing. The reality is that if you would have just given them the money for the hotel room, they might not have been able to check in,
Well, no, but because
right?
they were in a place where hotel rooms were far away. And there's no way they could walk there. Um, Probably not be able to navigate the bus system because they're from Michigan, right?
Mhm.
We're not going to hurt you.
Right.
There's a whole trust issue that they have to have with us, right? Like, who are you, right? But for whatever reason, they trusted us, and we took them. We took them, and it was one of those things where we were, as heartbroken as we were, our hearts were lifted, a little bit, because we
Mhm.
could help, because we
Mhm.
could help, and because we were kind to them. And
Yeah.
one of the other, Muhammad Ali, in an interview one day, he says, I do not like people who mistreat or are not nice and kind to waiters and waitresses. That's a term for those days.
Mhm.
And the interviewer said, why? He says, because, if I weren't Muhammad Ali, everybody treats me great because I'm Muhammad Ali. But if I wasn't Muhammad Ali, they'd be treating me that way, you know? And it's just like, ooh, right? And so imagine you're having dinner with Muhammad Ali, and you're a person who's ordering and mistreating, and not knowing that Muhammad Ali feels that way. But kindness goes a million miles for the person that you're giving it to, and maybe even farther for yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I always think like you can't outgive, the universe, God, whatever you
Yeah,
want, but you can't outgive. And
right,
whatever it is, you can't outgive. You give and things come back to you. And you don't give so that things will come back to you, but they do
right.
because that's
They
just the way
do.
things work.
Yeah,
And
and I want to tell you a story where, okay, so this is not an unconditional kindness story, but it's a story where kindness does make a difference in your relationships with people. So one day, my son, he was flying back from Hawaii to Seattle via Los Angeles. And so when he landed in LA, he learned that all of the Alaska Airlines flights in the United States were canceled because their computer systems went down. This was a number of years ago. My son was working for, it still is, but he was working for Amazon, and he had a meeting that he had to get to at 9 o'clock the next morning. That was an absolute critical meeting. He calls me up. He's in a panic. He says, Dad, they won't be able to get me back until 2 days from now. And he says, and I got this meeting tomorrow. And I said, Mike, okay, so listen up, listen carefully. I said, you're in the customer service line, right? He says, yes, I am. He says, and everybody is pissed off. And I said, okay, here's what you're gonna do, and you're gonna open your heart on this one. You're not gonna do this because you're manipulating people. You're gonna do this because you genuinely care. He says, what are you talking about? And I
Mhm.
said, when you get to that customer service agent, know that the only person that's having a worse day than you is that person on the other side of the counter. And I said, and you go to them and you say, you know what? I'm really sorry that you're having to go through this, and mean it. mean it. And he goes, yeah, I can see that now, right? And I said, and mean it. And just say, I know that things are impossible. I know that things are tough. And just tell her, explain the situation. But I got this meeting at Amazon tomorrow. And if there's any way that you can get me home so I can get to that meeting, I would so appreciate you. And I said, say it from your heart. If you can't say it from your heart, and if you can't empathize with her or him, don't do this. And so he goes, okay, Dad, I got this. He calls me up 20 minutes later and he says, I'm getting home on time for the meeting. I said, what happened? I mean, there are thousands and thousands of people that had all the flights. He says, she looked at me and she kept looking at me, kind of like, are you for real? And I said, then what'd you do? She says, let me see what I can do for you. And she got him home from LA to Dallas to Minneapolis to Seattle, but she got him home. And he says, Dad, he says, thank you. And he told me, he says, kindness and understanding the other person's perspective saved my day, but it's something I'm never going to forget, you know? And, you know, people want to be respected, people want to be appreciated. And when you do those things, magic happens. But you don't do it to manipulate people. You don't do it for something in return. But my son learned that day. He learned a really important lesson of really try to understand the other person's perspective and where they're coming from. Because if you come from a place of love, magic can happen,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And there's so many situations like that, right?
Yeah.
That it can
Yeah.
be easy to get frustrated with somebody or frustrated with the situation and take it out on somebody, but you have
Yeah.
no idea what's going on in somebody's life. I
Nobody,
think
no
back to
idea.
when my mom passed away. My mom died a long time ago. She committed suicide, which is the worst way to leave people. It was devastating and horrible and awful in every
Uh-huh.
possible imaginable way. And I remember going to the grocery store and I had little kids, I'm taking care of my babies. And so I had to go to the grocery store. And so I'm at the grocery store and I'm looking around at people thinking, nobody has any idea the pain I'm in.
Yeah.
They're just going
Yeah.
about their day
Yeah.
like
No,
nothing.
that's
Am I
right.
ever going to have a
That's
day
right.
where that's how I feel again at the grocery store? Is that ever going to happen for me? And so I think about that when I go. I think about when I'm around people, who knows if they've just lost somebody, if they just
That's
lost their
right.
job, or
That's
what's
right.
going on in their life. You just don't know. You
You
just don't
don't.
know.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Even the people who are closest to you, my best friends, right? I have no clue what's going on in their life. I really don't, right? I mean, they're my best friends, but I don't, you really don't know. Everybody's got something going on.
Mhm.
Everybody has got something going on, and everybody's got a story. And if you just kind of think about that and you just kind of go, and patience and kindness, right? That's what it's about. But everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. So, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Uh, Kim, do you have anything else you want to share at this moment?
I would just say that this one took me practice. Just like love is patient, I had to practice, practice, practice. Love
Yeah.
that is kind, I had to practice that because I was so programmed to have these expectations.
And
You
these
do
reflexes, these reflex reactions, right?
Yes, right. You do
Yeah,
something for somebody, they do
totally.
something back. Or even, my arms are full and I'm at the door, and certainly that person's going to open the door for me. And then if they don't, I'm mad at them.
Right.
They
Right.
didn't know.
Exactly. Exactly.
I wanted them to
Exactly.
open the door, right? I mean,
That's right.
why am I mad at them? And so it took me a lot of practice to go, no. And then, John, one of the biggest things I realized is the beauty of it all, the whole package of love that is kind. Because when you give just because you love, when you are kind, just because you love, man, that is such a great feeling, right? To love that way, to
Yeah.
love with love that is kind. And sometimes when you get something back and you know it's because they felt obligated to give it back, it's like your kind act got stolen away,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
right?
right. That's
It
right.
kind of makes
That's
things
right.
even. And, if you're
Yeah.
both, you just zero each other out.
Yeah.
And so, as freeing as it is to love with love that is kind in such a way that you expect nothing in return, you can give yourself that same freedom.
That's
So
right.
if somebody is kind to you, don't feel like you have to repay them. Don't repay them. Let them just be kind.
Yeah.
Let their kindness be kind love and let it be. And you don't have to write a thank you note. If you want to, fine. But as soon as you feel obligated, then it's a transaction. It's
Yeah, that's right. That's a really great point. That's a really great point. Okay, so I want to end this. I want to end this on and folks, a lot of folks have heard this, but I'm with my starfish story. Okay, so the starfish story is this old man is walking along this beach, and the night before, a huge storm came through this village, and washed up thousands of starfish onto this beach. And this old man was looking in the distance and he sees this little boy out in the distance picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean. And he walks up to the little boy and he says, "What are you doing?" And the little boy says, "I'm throwing starfish back into the ocean." And he says, "There must be thousands of starfish on this beach. You can't possibly make a difference." And the little boy thought about it, bent over, picked up a starfish, threw it back into the ocean. He said, "I made a difference to that one."
mm,
And that little boy, to this topic of kindness, he didn't expect anything back from the starfish. What's a starfish gonna do for him, right? But
mhm.
boy, what a kind heart. What a kind heart. And helping starfish one at a time. And that's what kindness does. That's what kindness does. One person at a time. You lift the world with kindness. So, Kim, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Folks, again, the name of her book is Love Is. And I'm having Kim back once a month to talk about each of her 14 chapters on what love is. So, Kim, thank you again. Folks, you want more information, go to johnsuzuki.com. And what an amazing story. What an amazing experience. Kim, thank you again for joining me. I love you. Everybody out there, thank you. God bless you. And we'll see you next time. Bye.